Hi, it's Dr. Kenny Handelman here, and I'm here with a coaching video for you with Lynne Edris from coachingaddvantages.com. Today we're going to talk about something very important for adults with ADHD, and that relates to how relationships can go when one adult has ADHD. And we're talking about long-term relationships here or marriage. So Lynne, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, can we just start with, can you share with us the idea or explain to us how ADHD can interfere with long-term relationships or marriages?
ADHD can interfere with long-term relationships and marriages in lots of ways. Some of the characteristics that we exhibit during the courtship phase or during dating are very romantic. The impulsivity, the spontaneity, that kind of spark that a lot of us have. But over time, some of the other challenges can start to rear their ugly heads and really take its toll. Things like trouble focusing during conversations, tuning out on your spouse or partner when they're trying to talk to you. Some of us are workaholics. That can interfere greatly with a relationship. Spontaneity, disorganization, forgetfulness are the kinds of things that I hear couples complaining about when they come to my practice. Okay,
so some of the things that seem really great in the beginning start to drive the non-ADD partner crazy a few years down the road.
Yes, it's lots of fun when you're dating, to be dating somebody who's spontaneous and quick and enthusiastic and energetic. But when that same person over the years, that romantic spark might start to wane, and that spontaneity may show up in other ways that aren't so attractive, and that energy can be kind of draining over time. Some of the other characteristics can start to be amplified.
Right, and we've spoken about hyperfocus before, how sometimes adults can really zone in on something and focus intently on something, for the purposes of achieving a goal, let's say. And maybe, do you think it's possible during courtship the adult with ADD can hyper-focus on the relationship and put tons of energy and effort and be so attentive, and then, real life is going on 2 years, 5 years, 10 years later, and they're not so hyper-focused. In fact, they're inattentive and distractible. Do you find that as well?
Definitely. It's nice to be the subject of the hyper-focus when you're the recipient in a dating situation, but when, over years that the novelty wears off and the hyper-focus is channeled other ways, whether it be to the business and work relationships, the computer, the internet. I hear a lot of complaints about those kinds of things from couples. Other hobbies that take away from the connection between the spouse or between partners can definitely take its toll over time.
Absolutely. All right. So if people have an ADD spouse or they're in a long-term relationship, what are some of the strategies that can help them to improve their relationship?
I would say first and foremost, the thing I always recommend to everybody, whether we're talking about a relationship or we're talking about the individual, is education. Educating yourself as much as possible with good, solid, reliable information about ADHD in general and how it's showing up in that person as an individual. But how it shows up in every individual is extremely different. I always say that ADHD is as unique as your thumbprint. So figuring out what challenges, what things that are bothersome are related to ADHD can help you go a long way in learning how to correct those things and learning how to live with them a little more gently and with a little bit more patience. Okay. Communication, I think, is also extremely important. And it's important in any relationship, obviously, especially a marriage or a long-term relationship. But when it comes to ADHD, sometimes that can be an area where the ADHD partner will struggle. Effective communication, listening well, staying tuned in during a conversation, those kinds of things can be a challenge for us. And after a while, if the other partner, disconnects, steps back, or there's not a significant effort in communication, there can be hurt feelings and negative patterns can develop and that sort of thing.
Right. So, and the education is critically important because I guess if the ADHD partner does something inattentive or impulsive, the non-ADHD partner could think they did it on purpose, or they must be angry, or they may be falling out of love, or how could they do that to me, etc. Whereas the ADHD, that may have just been a core symptom of ADHD and they were overwhelmed, right? So knowing where it's coming from can make a difference right off the bat.
Definitely.
And then the communication is critical. So I wondered if you could share a couple of specific things. When we were talking before, you talked about how to give instructions well. And how to make sure, like how can the non-ADHD partner make sure the ADHD partner is listening well? Can you share those strategies?
Sure. That's one of the things I hear the most complaints about when I work with couples where one partner has ADHD and the other one does not, are things like he doesn't remember or she doesn't remember when I tell them something. I ask them to do something and it never happens. They never follow through. The ADHD partner almost unilaterally doesn't remember the conversation, doesn't remember the instructions in the moment or in the time when they need to do whatever it is that they've been asked to do. So one of the things that happens often is, and I am the ADD partner in my 24-year marriage, is that the non-ADD partner gives instructions, asks them something, tells them something when they're tuned into something else. And I've told my husband over the years that just because I'm looking at you and I'm nodding doesn't necessarily mean that I'm hearing and processing what you're saying. So it's very important to make sure that you have the ADD partner's attention, truly have their attention, before you start telling them what it is that you need to tell them, whether it's something about your day, something you want them to take care of, something they've forgotten, whatever it is. So things that can really help are to say, I need to talk to you about something. Can you disengage from whatever it is that you're doing? Some of us get grouchy when we're asked to disengage when we're interrupted, because it takes so much energy for us to refocus. So giving that person a couple of minutes, and then the ADD partner obviously needs to willfully disengage or kind of transition out of what it is that they're doing so that they can give their partner their full attention. Physical contact helps a lot. If you can put your arm on them, put your hand on their shoulder, whatever, it's kind of a pattern interrupt. It helps to bring their focus on to what's going on with you, making sure that you're limiting the distractions in the environment. Having a detailed, a sincere conversation when the TV's on is a recipe for disaster. When you're sitting in front of the internet, I can't tell you how many times my husband will tell me something, it happened during the Super Bowl and there was a good commercial on. He had to tell me whatever it was 3 times, and then finally I said, I'm really sorry, I want to hear what you have to say, but I need to mute the TV. I can't have both. Everything is pulling on my attention. So the non-ADD partner needs to be aware of those kind of signals, the warning signs, the things that can possibly get in the way. Those sort of things help an awful lot.
Excellent. Great points. Now, one thing I want to finish with is, for many people, with the stresses of marriage and kids and commitments and finances and work and all the different pressures, many times that kind of spark, the romance, isn't necessarily as strong a number of years into the relationship as it was in the beginning, and that can certainly be more of an issue when there's an ADHD partner. Do you have any suggestions about that?
Definitely, and that's an issue with every relationship that's been in the works for a long time, but especially with those of us that have ADD. When one of us has ADHD, it's easy to get hyper focused on our own lives and kind of start to disconnect. So anything you can do to connect regularly, getting involved in activities that the other person enjoys, if that can be reciprocal, that's a wonderful thing. Taking time alone, I know it's hard. I have a child with ADHD. I have a couple of kids, one of whom has ADHD. And when they were younger, that was really hard. Hard to get a sitter, hard to leave them with someone else, and you're exhausted by the time the day is done. But taking time, at least once a week to spend time together. We used to do Friday night date nights at home when my kids were little. We couldn't afford to go out much, and babysitters were kind of few and far between. So when the kids would be in bed, we'd watch a video, but do something that would involve some interaction as well. Play a board game, cards, whatever. Just something that would involve some connection, and going away together is really important to my husband and I. It's easier now that our kids are a little bit older, but we make a point to go away together at least for one night, several times a year. It helps to kind of remind you of what you fell in love with to begin with. It helps to re-spark that connection. If you can't manage an overnight, borrow, barter, trade with friends, with neighbors, watch their kids, set up a babysitting co-op, whatever you can do to get time alone together and connect personally with that individual. If you want to make work conversations off topic or out of bounds or, whatever, not allowed during the conversation, that's fine. If you want to make a rule that you don't talk about kids, that's really hard, but you can try to do that as well. But trying to reconnect as adults, that's a great gift you can give your kids as well.
Great. Excellent points. Thank you, Lynne. I think this video will be helpful for everybody watching it. And if you want to learn more about specific strategies that can help you in a long-term relationship or a marriage when one partner has ADHD, Lynne's going to be doing a coaching call as part of our Attention Difference Disorder Insiders membership site. The call will be on Monday, February 13th 2012 at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to learn more, if you're an insider, join us. If you want to learn more, by all means, go ahead and click the link on this page and you can join us for that call. Thank you very much, Lynne.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.